Hi everyone, I'm Neile Jones.
And I'm Holly Raley. And you may notice today's show looks a little different.
Yeah, we're Sam's daughters, and in honor of Perspective's 20th anniversary, we get to interview our dad and share with you a little bit more about the man you have so graciously allowed into your homes via television.
So I think we're going to dial it back a couple of decades, maybe to the early 60s, Dad. You've graduated at that time from Northside High School in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Well, I left.
You left.
You left.
Graduated. But you're in college, and I think a lot of people watching would be surprised to know that you were studying music, actually.
That's right.
You played at least 3 instruments, piano, guitar, trombone.
That's right.
And I think to say that you were studying music was probably an understatement, because you were all in. You were in a band, you recorded an album, so you weren't just studying, you were doing a lot of things musically.
Yeah.
What really inspired that time of your life? Why study music?
I grew up listening to big bands. Mom and Dad had an array of Glenn Miller, Tommy Dorsey, that sort of thing, you know, Harry James. So I had a big interest in it. And a friend of mine named Gail Croxton was a sax player in band with me. He played sax at Northside High School, where I went to high school. Gail took off right out of high school and ended up working for Capitol Records as a studio musician. We stayed in touch for a couple of years. He left Capitol, went to work for RCA. We lost touch. But I thought, that's the kind of life I want to live. That's what I thought at that time.
Sure, sure. And to think about recording an album, which I assume was all original material.
Wasn't mine.
Yeah, okay.
I played bass in that.
Stand-up bass, right?
Stand-up bass, okay.
Stand-up bass.
Yeah.
It was blonde. Very few of those were around at the time, but I bought it used. Somebody had kicked in the front, and it had a huge patch on it, you know, on the bottom.
Yeah.
Had good resonance, though, and I played that thing for, I don't know how many years.
But recording an album, you're not just recording it on your iPhone and putting it on social media.
No, see, back then, when the label didn't pick you up, you recorded your own out of your own pocket, and then you shipped them out to different jobbers.
Okay.
And so we thought we were such hot property that we, out of our own pocket, paid for 100 records and shipped them out, thinking, boy, the phone's gonna ring.
Right, right.
Which it never did.
But you know, you did it.
Yeah.
You did it. And just to put it in perspective, you played trombone, piano, guitar, bass. I think you played the drum at one point in the, right? But that makes sense that your first job in broadcasting was not on air, but you ended up at a radio station. You were an engineer, if I remember right, and someone heard your voice.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't remember the date, but I remember how it started. That man on the left was Ron Hanover. He was part of the family that owns Hanover's Meat Market in Tulsa.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And the guy in the middle was Daryl Huddleston, who was just the craziest individual I ever knew. And together, we were unholy. All of us had the same interests, the same background, more or less.
It makes sense to me, though, because people have always referred to his voice as liquid gold. We've heard people say that many, so it makes sense that broadcasting would be your first.
Yeah. And so then you've got the great voice, you've got the intellect, and the great
Do you
hair.
remember Carl Riggins?
Oh, that's a blast from the past.
Carl
name I
Riggins
remember.
was a radio announcer in our hometown of Fort Smith. Literally ran into Carl on the streets of Fort Smith one day, and Carl said, "Hey, are you working?" I said, "Not if I, can get away with it." He said, "Well, I know where there's an opening." And he had me audition, cut an audition tape, and they hired me the next day. And I went to work for a radio station in Fort Smith and was there, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, and then the rest is broadcast history.
Well, you say that, but in Fort Smith, that's where he made the transition.
Yeah, to KFSM, right? To then
Channel 5.
the on-camera stuff,
Yeah.
which would then lead you on to Channel 7 in Little Rock, bigger market, capital city,
Channel 11.
Channel 11, and also in Little Rock.
Yeah,
And then from there, leading to Tulsa.
to Tulsa.
But let's stick with Little Rock for a little bit, because in Little Rock, I think Little Rock for you was, a perspective for people, President Clinton was then governor in Little Rock, and there were a lot of people around. You met a lot of different people. You've got a great Rosa Parks story, someone you looked up to very much. Rosa Parks, do you remember meeting her
do.
as part of your career there?
I do. I sat and talked with her for, 45 minutes or so. A friend arranged that and didn't tell me where I was going or what was going to happen. And I went into this place that was not well lit, and there was only one person in there and hundreds of seats, and we were the only two. Anyway, she walked me down the aisle to where this lady sat and said, "This is the person I want you to meet, Sam Rosa Parks, Rosa Sam Jones." And I was, "Oh, really?" And that's how that came about.
Do you remember what she said to you? Because I've heard you share that story. It was poignant for you about what was happening with the Times.
Yeah, she said, "I didn't give up my seat because they told me to. I was just tired."
She told you that, but she told you things were changing.
Oh, yeah. And she said, "If you listen, you can hear them." I remember one time I was working for Channel 11, and the newsroom was on one side of the building, and the set where we worked, where we did the news at Channel 11, was across the hall. And I was in there on a Saturday morning thinking I was alone. And all of a sudden I heard, "Yow!" And I looked, it's a wonder I didn't wet myself, but I looked up and it was little Richard hanging in the doorway. He was supposed to do an interview that morning. Not with me, but I didn't know he was coming. Absolutely scared the dog poo out of me. And I was still bouncing like this. And he said, he told me what he was there for, and I told him where to go. In no uncertain terms. Never will forget that morning.
Well, and I think you, I'm sorry.
No, that's great.
I think you mentioned that Jimmy Carter came in. No one wanted to interview a peanut farmer.
Yeah.
But you said, "I'll interview him."
They said, "Well, go on up front. There's this guy named Jimmy Carter. He raises peanuts and he thinks he's going to be president." I said, "Okay." Went up there and sat down and talked with him for maybe half an hour, and they used the interview. And darn if he didn't get elected.
Magic touch, magic touch. And welcome back. I'm Holly Raley with my sister Neile Jones, and we have the pleasure today of interviewing our dad, Sam. We're going to continue on his journey, his broadcasting journey. We were talking about the Little Rock, Arkansas chapter, but around 1981, you made the switch to Tulsa, moved to anchor position here in Tulsa, which I personally am thrilled about because I met my husband around that time. So anyway, what can you share about that? Just from you went from a capital city to
You're coming off of covering the hostages.
I was going to say, you're coming off of quite a lot of big international things in Little Rock, making the move to Tulsa, brand new city, away from family.
You didn't know anybody.
Didn't know anybody. Moved over here without your family, lived here for a while without us. What was that like?
Well,
transition.
You have to understand the times. The times were volatile. Just before we moved, Iran had taken a number of hostages, American hostages. Cynthia Dwyer was one, the only woman.
Yeah.
Steve Kirtley was another. Steve was a Marine that they had him on guard duty with an empty rifle. And the Iranians took them, blindfolded them, and put them in what Steve called the Mushroom Farm, which was a building with an underground. And they didn't see daylight for a couple of months. They finally released them. They sent me to the station sent me to Washington to cover the homecoming, but I remember looking around at the press corps, which is where I was, seeing the people that I had seen doing news on television, and I was astounded that I was with that crowd.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Anyway, Mother and I had always, your mother and I had, which by the way, been married 60 years, virtually unheard of now in this business, but Mom and I had always wanted to live in Tulsa. And I got an offer from Phoenix and an offer from Tulsa, and we took the Tulsa offer, and that's how we ended up here.
And I don't think I ever knew about the Phoenix offer.
Yeah, I don't think I
So
did either.
That's pretty special.
I'll tell you another story about that. We were getting set to board a plane to go somewhere, and we were in Frankfurt, Germany, and all of a sudden they came out and we had to all get off the plane. And it's snowing and it's cold, and I remember Dad used to say, because he fought in Germany in World War II, he used to talk about how bitter cold the winters were there. And in just a few minutes, they rolled out the bomb truck. And I said, I wonder what that's all about. And they, just prior to that, they had us all go over and touch our luggage. We had to touch it. So TSA didn't exist. So we walked over and touched your luggage. As soon as you touched it, they put it on the plane. And when they got through, there was one small brown satchel. And they rolled out the bomb truck. Just as they put that in the bomb truck, it exploded. That's how close I came to not coming home.
You said the
Wow.
snow. You said the snow. You saw it snow, and the snow kind of shifted.
Yeah.
When that happened.
Yeah.
But I wanted to touch on that because that was journalism was different then, right? It was, and I don't like to say that because I'm not taking away from our journalists today. We have one journalist today, but that was a different assignment for you, and I think that caught some eyes, and that helped you get to your
It
job
did.
in Tulsa.
I do too.
And helped
I,
you move here.
You know, that reminds me though, on a much lighter note, didn't you have a car wreck when you were over there? Wasn't there an accident?
Yeah.
Okay, minor deal
That's
on
right.
the Autobahn or something,
We were
much
on the
lighter.
Autobahn, and
Yeah.
there's no speed limit.
Yeah.
And gosh, I can't recall the photographer's name, but
And he was
We're-
driving, right? Your
we're-
photographer? Photographer was driving, I think.
yeah, he was driving.
Okay, okay.
And I'm sitting in the writer's seat, you know, looking,
Sure, yeah.
rubbernecking it, and all of a sudden, we heard a bam, and I heard a bam, and I looked around. Phil, that was his name,
Yep.
and this person went sailing over our car, right across the hood. And what had happened was a motorcyclist had run a stop sign and hit us broadside, and of course Phil hit the brakes, and cars are just doing this around,
yeah.
you know, and he's laying in the street. What a mess.
Yeah, what a crazy
mess.
story.
But I remember we hadn't been away from our dad that long.
No.
And I was very little, and you were young too.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
old enough to remember and know that you were gone.
And we
for
were
a
so
long time.
happy when you came back.
Oh, so was I.
And I remember going to the construction site at Stephen Kirtley's house. Do you remember that? Because you were making sure they needed a ramp so someone could use a ramp. There were a lot of things you did behind the scenes. You know, now it's let's take a camera and show our anchors doing everything. But you did a lot of things to help community. And I think Holly and I learned a lot from that.
Well, yeah, and just the resilience. I mean, the equipment was so big and bulky.
It was
you
different.
Know, you weren't getting on your cell phone and
Well,
calling
when we
in
went to
things.
Houston to fly to Europe the first time around, our car broke down, and a guy named Harold Dow stopped. Harold went on to anchor news for CBS
Yeah.
and later ABC, but he helped us load all of our gear, all the photography gear and everything else, and suitcases in his car, drove us to KHOU in Houston, where we regrouped, got everything together. That was the last time I ever saw him. But I never will forget how kind he was to help two young redneck kids trying to grow up in the business.
Yeah.
I just wanted to revisit that because
Yeah,
we kind of glossed over
it's
that.
true.
And
It's
that was a pivotal moment in your career, that assignment. And we do want to talk about coming to Tulsa, anchoring with
yes.
Nancy Herr, Karen Keith, Beth Ringel. So we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes when we come back.
And we're back, and I think we're up to maybe the early 80s now, talking about your time at Channel 2, KJRH, which brought you to Tulsa. You did some pretty important work while you were there. The 8 years, I think we were talking about, 8 years at KJRH.
When you first started, it was Gary Shore, right? And it was Nancy Herr and Jerry Weber. Remember that right?
Yeah.
Uncle Jerry, we used to call him.
What a crew.
Gary Weber.
What a crew.
Yeah, and I remember being down, I know Neile did this too, we would help, can we say this, work the teleprompter?
Yeah, we'd run the teleprompter during
the
your shows.
newscasts and stuff, yeah.
I'm going to tell one funny thing. Dad used to do this to Gary Shore when he was doing the weather. You would stick a whoopee cushion in his seat for when he came back, and he would have to move it.
Yeah.
You guys were good friends.
Yeah.
But you had fun, but you did some serious work there.
We did some serious work. In fact, 2 of the documentaries I did at Channel 2 wound up in the Smithsonian and are there still.
Spirit of the Fire.
Spirit of the Fire, which took us a year and a half to do. And the other was Little Giant from Little Dixie, which was a documentary on Carl Albert, who was former Speaker of the House.
Spirit of the Fire was really ahead of its time. A lot of people, they may not remember what that was about. Can you revisit that and
Sure.
talk about that? And Holly and I were there. We would go with you to the night shoots. I mean, it was incredibly moving what we learned.
Spirit of the Fire was a 1-hour documentary on what's called the original Katuwa Society. That was the original religious order that belonged to the Cherokee Nation. And when they came to Oklahoma, when they were driven to Oklahoma, if they slowed down, they were killed, slaughtered, babies, men, women, it mattered not how they were treated. When they arrived here, they still had that religion, and they saved it. It outlasted everything. And Carl Albert, when I did the special on him, you know, he was kind of a short fella. And he told the story about when he lived in Bug Tussle, and that's where we had to go to shoot it. And my favorite story of that was when he shot he was doing something down there, and little guy, and this little boy walked up to him and he said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" He said, "I want to be just like you." And he said, "Oh, really? And why is that?" And he said, "Well, I figure if somebody as short as you are can grow up to be almost president of the United States, I can take it the rest of the way."
That's a great story. I love that
It's a
story.
true story.
Yeah,
Something
so good.
personal from to go back to Spirit of the Fire that I love, because we're sitting here together, is that your dad and your mom called you, and your dad was so moved because he was at the Smithsonian and saw, and your daughter. So
Yeah.
So that's pretty special.
that's pretty special that you
those
had your
things are
parents
there.
and your
It
granddaughter got to see those
Lasting
things.
legacy.
Now, I want to point out, I could never have accomplished anything I ever did without your mother. I have never known a woman like her.
Well, we're 2 of your accomplishments. So.
Oh, really?
I mean,
Mom.
but we have some pictures we're going to show, because you have been married more than 60 years now, and that's a big deal. They've shown your wedding. We've gone to Razorback games with you. We've gone to museums with you. We've done those fun trips in the car. You know, what does
The
it
beach,
take? This
the mountains.
business, it's tough. This business is tough. We know that.
It's hard on women.
And it's hard on marriages.
it's hard
and
on marriages.
Mom, could you have done what you did as well as you did it without knowing that you had Mom,
Yeah.
Linda?
You know, she was a cheerleader in college.
That's true.
That's true.
There's some fun pictures of that around too. What advice would you give someone who's considering studying? You know, Neile and I have journalism degrees, which we're proud of, but
In many ways, we were your first students, right?
we were.
So
yeah. But what advice would you give to some 20-something that's considering pursuing that career now? I mean, it's tough.
It is hard.
Yeah.
I will say this, there is a trend now where TV stations are owned by conglomerates, and the business has changed considerably. They'll hire anybody, and give them a mic and put them in front of a camera.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, because that station's going to be sold in a month.
Right.
You know, they're just moving. It's like chess pieces. So I would tell that person, try to develop a sense of rules to live by. Try to become, in spite of the business, try to develop your own morals and hold on to them, because you're certainly not going to get them from the TV stations.
Right.
I was very fortunate. For people who don't know, I spent 20 plus, around 20, several decades in broadcasting. And you would always say to me, be able to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then something that people, I don't think they understand is, used to you were given 2 minutes and 30 seconds in broadcasting to tell a story. And now a lot of these people are expected to tell a full story with both sides in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's hard. You might turn one story in a day in the way broadcasting used to be. Now they're turning 2 and 3. So it's difficult for them to do their jobs. And how would you advise them to keep the morale up as well? Because we need our journalists. We need them.
Try to see past the problems of the era, even if they affect you. If they affect you and your family or the people next door, try to see past that, because whatever you do is going to leave a mark. Good, bad, or indifferent, it will leave a mark. And you'll either be remembered and get a pat on the back or an attaboy, or people will just walk right by you.
But that's not necessarily bad. Like you would tell me, and I'm sure you would tell you this too, they may not like it, but they will respect you if you've given the facts and told the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Which is really a good way to live anyway, even outside journalism, right? Just tell the truth. Yeah.
right.
Just
And
be
verify.
honest.
I mean,
Yeah.
used to, we had time to make those calls and to verify, you know, 2, 3 sources is what you wanted. And
Yeah.
it's just different. And I think there are a lot of people out there working hard. So I'm glad that we still have people like you to inspire them.
I don't pay your allowance anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, you've been a good sport about all this, though. You've
I
been a really
know.
good sport about being on that side of the chair, so to speak.
Because I know
Yeah.
that's hard for you. Are there any stories, like you used to say, and I don't know how much time we have left in this segment, but you used to say you had all these stories that you couldn't share because they were so good. And I'm being told we have about 30 seconds left in this segment. How much is there in your life that you could just never share because it's so good?
Some of that I've forgotten intentionally.
Yeah.
Some of it, like the story I told you earlier about the singer that stuck his head in the door and yelled, funny things like that I'll remember. I'll carry to my grave.
It's quite an honor to be around a journalist of your caliber, but to also have that person be your father.
Said this before, I don't pay your allowance.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. It's been really,
Well, girls,
it's been a treat.
you made it easy. You came prepared.
Hopefully they'll invite us back and we can tell more.
We could tell more.
Is there anything you want to say as far as thank yous? Is there anything you want to say? I mean, you're in the Oklahoma Broadcasting Hall of Fame. You, at one point, had more broadcasting associations, if I remember, AP awards, when you were at Channel 2 than Channel 2 had as a whole. You don't earn those things by yourself. It takes a team. Is there anything you want to say to people who have helped you in your career? We didn't give them a chance to say thank you, so I want to make sure we do.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, there's a lot, I feel like I owe a lot of people. I worked for some really, I consider giants in the industry, people that are gone now. I wish I had the chance to thank them, and I can't because they're gone.
Yeah.
But they left a mark. Not left a mark with me. I won't forget them.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you for joining
Yeah.
us today.
And we appreciate Roger State and Perspectives and Dad for letting us interview him today.
I've never been interviewed. That's pretty cool.
You've done really well, actually.
Yeah, Dad, it's hard to be on that side, isn't it?
It is.
Isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
for joining us. Thank you to Roger State for all that you do for our community. And we won't be back, but Dad will.
Dad will be back.